They're a Scottish funk and R&B band, and they're making their way to the Motor City ahead of their performance at the Aretha Franklin Jazz Café. Let's welcome Alan Gorey from the Average White Band. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Now, you're a founding member of the Average White Band. I'm sure over the last 50 years you've been asked this 100 times, but we here in Detroit want to know, how did you guys choose that name?
It shows us, you may say. It was one of these situations where the last thing we really were was typical of an average British rock and roll band. We were a soul music group, and therefore doing something atypical. And somehow the name was just tongue-in-cheek. It was ironic, and we canvassed a few people, and they said, that sounds really, really good. And it just kind of meant the average Joe. And of course, we weren't that in the UK, so it seemed fitting since we were actually above average.
Well, you sure are. You've been around for pretty much 50 years. Now, I want to talk about the early days. It wasn't always an easy go. I heard one of your records wasn't picked up at first, and you had some troubles, catching on. But now that when you look back at that, like 50 years later, does that even seem like it took place, or did it all seem like it was gravy all the way through?
It's all part of life's rich tapestry. Sometimes it does come to a frayed edge. But that's all part of the learning experience, and you have to get through these things. If you can't, then you won't succeed, but we had to do it, and I think it was all part of the building blocks.
Okay, so you have a lot of international spots on this tour. It is being dubbed the Farewell Tour. I'm not sure if that's written in stone or not. Detroit is one of the stops. Why did you want to make a stop in Detroit?
We love Detroit. It's one of the places that we started out with our first tour with B.B. King. We opened for him at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, that wonderful old mile-high building. And we went on to further successes in the city, the Ford Theater among them, and all of the other great places in the city and around the city. And we've played them all. Last year we played at the Aretha Franklin, which was wonderful. And we do love Detroit. It's very much like a Scottish city in many ways, climate-wise and people-wise. Really vociferous fans, and really we always loved Motown music. So what's there not to love?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the style of music in Detroit. You guys are, heavily based in R&B. Why is it so impactful that you play in the city? And did you have any influence from Motown or artists in Detroit?
Well, absolutely. In Scotland, you couldn't get in a band, A, if you didn't play soul music, B, if you couldn't sing and play. That was really important. But some of the icons for us were the Isley Brothers, their early Motown records, Marvin Gaye, of course, Stevie, the Four Tops, the Temps, the whole gamut. We've always said that one of Scotland's other anthems in the 1960s was This Old Heart of Mine by the Isley Brothers. If that wasn't on the playlist, the dance floor was empty.
It is a great tune. Now, tell us, like I said earlier, this is being kind of billed as the final international tour. If that is true, that has to be an emotional thing for you. You've been playing for so long.
Yeah, it is emotional in one sense. It's a bit of a relief in another sense, because touring and traveling has become a lot more risky and expensive and somewhat dangerous and dodgy since the days of COVID. For some reason or other, airlines, hotels, all manner of things, as we say, trains and boats and planes, have all become unreliable in many senses, and that really queers the pitch when you're trying to plan touring. So we felt that after, what will be 52 years of touring with the band, it was time to give up that aspect of things. It doesn't mean to say that we can't record or write music and do things of that nature, that are creative, but the touring aspect is what wears you down.
Well, we're certainly glad you're stopping in Detroit. The Average White Band is going to be making a stop here November 3rd. Alan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
It's going to be a great concert. Hope you all can make it.